Continuing our weekly theme of island stories, enjoy this chilling tale in 2 gripping installments. And as always, don't forget to subscribe and share your suggestions for new weekly themes in the comments. Thank you. The Island Games, Part 1. Holden Russo sat on the peeling vinyl of his mother's old recliner, staring at the eviction notice tacked to the front door like a cruel joke. The apartment was silent, except for the occasional drip of a leaky faucet in the kitchen. He'd stopped caring about fixing things long ago, around the time his mother stopped recognizing him, her mind eaten away by disease and the pile of unpaid medical bills. She was gone now. The bed where she had taken her last breath still unmade in the corner of the room. The landlord had been lenient at first, but patience runs thin when someone's not paying rent. Holden couldn't even blame him. The refrigerator hummed weakly as he opened it, revealing a jar of pickles and a half bottle of ketchup. He shut it just as quickly. The emptiness, a confirmation of the futility that he felt. This was his life. Or it had been, until the idea crept in. The idea was a parasite, something dark and insidious that whispered in the quiet hours. He didn't need much, just enough to get out of Vegas and start over. Somewhere no one knew his name, where he could shed the skin of poverty and failure. He started watching people, not in a creepy way, but in the way predators do when they're sizing up prey. Bank tellers with their crisp uniforms and polite smiles. Security guards who checked their watches more than they checked the cameras. Customers who shuffled in and out, oblivious to everything except their own lives. Holden's plan took shape in the corner booth of a greasy diner. The laminated menu sticky under his elbows as he sketched crude maps and timelines on napkins. The Silverado National Bank. A Friday afternoon. A hoodie, sunglasses, and an old gun he'd buy from a pawn shop with the last $20 in his pocket. It wasn't foolproof, but he didn't have time for perfect plans. The Silverado's air conditioning blasted cold as he stepped through the glass doors. He kept his head down, the brim of his cap hiding his face. A line of customers stretched towards the entrance. He took his place at the end, clutching the backpack that would hold his escape. The teller, a young woman with a nervous smile, didn't even flinch when he approached. He slid the note across the counter, his heart thudding like a war drum in his chest. No alarms, no dye packs, empty the drawer. She hesitated, her eyes darting to the corners of the room. Holden lifted the edge of his hoodie just enough to show the gun. "Now!" he whispered, his voice sharper than he intended. The money came in frantic handfuls, her hand shaking as she stuffed it into the bag. But then came the voice. "Hey!" Holden turned, his stomach lurching as a man in a suit stepped towards him. "Drop it!" The gun had went off before Holden realized he'd pulled the trigger. The sound was deafening, silencing the room like a clap of thunder. The teller crumpled to the ground, her blood spreading across the polished floor like spilled ink. Holden didn't think. He couldn't think. He grabbed the bag and ran, his legs moving before his brain could even catch up. The underworld of Vegas was a different kind of darkness. The sewers stretched for miles, a labyrinth of concrete and shadows where the unwanted and unseen took refuge. Holden stumbled through the filth, clutching his stolen money, his breaths coming in shallow gasps. The face of the dead teller haunted him, her wide, terrified eyes, the way her body had crumpled like a marionette with its strings cut. He didn't even notice the man at first. Nash blended into the shadows, his wiry frame cloaked in grime and a tattered trench coat.
"You looking for something?"
Nash rasped, his voice like gravel. Just a way out," Holden muttered, his fingers tightening on the strap of his bag. Nash's smile was a gash of yellow teeth.
"I can help with that. For a price?"
The price was every dollar Holden had stolen, but it bought him a place in the belly of a cargo ship headed for Malaysia. The ship groaned as it cut through the dark waters. Holden stayed below deck, the stink of salt and diesel heavy in the air. He barely slept, his nerves frayed to the point of snapping. On the third night, they found him. The man in the white suit was impossibly clean, his polished shoes clicking against the metal floor. 2 armed guards flanked him, their faces impassive. "Holden Russo," the man said, his voice smooth and cultured. "I've been looking forward to meeting you." "Who are you?" Holden demanded, his back pressed against the wall. "Gideon," the man said simply. "And you, my friend, are about to become very important." Holden didn't respond, his mind racing. "You've been selected for the Island Games. 12 contestants, 1 winner. You'll represent me in this year's competition." "Why me?" Gideon's smile was sharp. "Because you have nothing to lose. And if you win, well, let's just say your life will never be the same." The air was thick with humidity, the jungle alive with the hum of insects and the rustle of unseen creatures. Holden woke on a stretch of sand, his head pounding and his mouth dry. He wore a jumpsuit with the number 11 stitched into the chest. A small satchel hung at his side, containing a knife, a water bottle, and a device that blinked with an ominous red light. The jungle swallowed him whole as he moved inland, the oppressive heat wrapping around him like a second skin. The device in his satchel beeped softly, its screen displaying a crude map of the island. He wasn't alone for long. The man who found him was massive, his shaved head gleaming in the sunlight, his jumpsuit red, number 9.
"You lost, kid?"
The man sneered, his voice like a low growl. Holden backed away, his hand slipping to the knife at his hip. "Don't do this," he warned, his voice trembling. The man laughed, a cruel sound that echoed through the trees.
Well, it's you or me, buddy."
The fight was brutal and raw, a clash of desperation and violence. Holden's knife found flesh, but the man's strength was overwhelming. Pinned to the ground, Holden did the only thing he could. He bit down, his teeth sinking into the man's face. The taste of blood and sweat filled his mouth as the man screamed, clawing at his ruined nose. Holden staggered to his feet, his chest heaving. Number 9 crawled away, leaving a trail of blood in his wake. The jungle swallowed the man's screams, leaving Holden alone with his shaking hands and the weight of what he'd done. The games had begun, and Holden was already losing pieces of himself. Part 2 will be released tomorrow at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. How do you think Holden will fare in the games? What is the game? And what did Gideon mean by representing him. Sound off in the comments below with your theories, and I'll see you tomorrow.